And welcome back to Forbes Sports Money. Well, ESPN just shocked the world by paying an astronomical $15.2 billion for the rights to air NFL footage and games. Now, this increase in rights fees is a trend that seems to have no end. However, the cost to the consumer may be more than just an increase to subscriber fees, as television continues to splinter into niche markets. In order to get a better understanding of this transforming television universe, Michael Ozanian sat down with Laura Martin, CFA.
Laura, we live in this world of fracturing audiences for programming and a proliferation of devices. What has been the impact of this on sports programming fees?
You know, I think the impact on sports generally is that reaching segments of consumer that are important to advertisers has become increasingly difficult. The best, most efficient way to reach young men, which is a key demographic of many advertising, is to advertise on sports. So the value of sports programming is rising because it is harder to aggregate men, and sports does that really well.
You know, the 73% increase that ESPN has agreed to pay the NFL to continue covering the National Football League, I think that increase caught a lot of people by surprise. They didn't think it would be that big. Did that catch you by surprise?
I would say two things. One is there's increasing competition from people like Comcast as a new entrant trying to create and regional sports networks, and Time Warner doing a Lakers deal. There's increasing channel competition against ESPN. I think it's a consensus on Wall Street that ESPN must have the NFL or it doesn't have a sports channel. So I kind of think ESPN has to pay whatever it takes to keep the NFL rights.
You know, I was looking at what they charge ESPN, the cable companies and the carriers, $4.50 per subscriber on average a month. That's more than $1 more than Disney gets for its other 9 channels on average. Does this imply that even with that huge rights fee that ESPN is paying, they're going to make up for that? They're going to have a return on their capital based on what they're able to get from the cable companies?
You know, I mean, I think one of the things that the new ESPN NFL deal does, it probably hastens what I would call the sports tiering on the channel. And what I mean by that is that there's been an outcry by consumers that really don't watch sports. About 50% of Americans actually don't watch sports. And yet they're being charged $5 a month for the ESPN on top of $1 for the RSN, each of their RSNs, that they don't have the ability not to pay. It's part of the bundle. They don't feel they get any value for it. And now, as sports rights continue to escalate and the channels try to pass that through on those same consumers, we really do see Congress getting increasingly concerned in protecting the consumers, especially in a recessionary time, that don't get any value from sports, and yet they're getting charged $5, $7 a month to pay for sports programming that they don't watch. And I think as you start to see the sports networks increase their pricing to the consumer, it becomes more likely that you end up with a sports tier. And here's the problems for the leagues with that. That right now ESPN gets about 70% of its money from Comcast, Verizon, Time Warner Cable, but it gets 30% from advertising. Advertising revenue is linked to how many people watch it. Well, if 50% of America stops having the ability to turn the channel and watch a great game in the fourth quarter, you lose all that ad revenue, because they're not paying for the sports tier anymore. They don't think they watch sports. So it really hurts the revenue of these sports channels if they end up on a sports tier, because a big chunk of the US population will not pay $7 to $10 a month to have sports available at their fingertips. That hurts the ad revenue, so guess what happens when the next league deal tries to come up and increase rates? No way. Sports channels end up with less money to pay to all the leagues.
So how does sports play into the unbundling?
Sports would be one of the types of programming that suffers because it is by far the most expensive to put on the air. So you can save a lot of money if you're trying to put together a bundle if you take out ESPN. And in fact, there's a new bundle that's put out by Time Warner Cable and just got adopted by somebody else, $45, no sports. No sports. So sports is the most expensive programming, so the easiest way to save money is you throw it off the air and you sell stuff without sports, which is a lot cheaper. Not good for the sports world.
All right, Michael, the idea of TV obviously has always been to attract more eyeballs, but what we've been finding and hearing is that people have said, well, with all the new devices, TV on mobile phones, TV on iPads, that it's going to take away from TV. Is that going to be the case? Could it hurt television?
Actually, from speaking with Laura and all the numbers she's crunched, Bob, the opposite has happened. All the online work and the digital platforms have actually helped increase the numerous people that watch the games on TV, has helped ratings. You know, it's sort of like when the NFL didn't want to put home games on TV in the local market. They were afraid that it would take away from people going to the stadium, but the opposite has happened. And if you look at things like MLB.TV, 750,000 subscribers paying an average of $100 to get this every year. They've figured out ways to monetize this. The NFL has done the same thing. They now have live streaming of games outside of the United States that they're making a lot of money from. The NBA and the NHL are also monetizing their streaming of their games. So actually, they figured out ways to make money from this, and probably will make more money without endangering the amount of money they're going to get from broadcasters and their rights fees.
All right, now that's the idea of different revenue streams coming in. But what it sounds like from listening to Laura is that if they decide to really break things up, a la carte, cable-wise, or go into these sports tiers and things like that, that it could not only hurt cable fees, but maybe advertising as well.
Well, that's one of the dangers that she pointed to. It's almost like being a victim of too much success, if you will, is that people who really aren't interested in sports, I can't imagine who they are. You and I don't know anybody like that. But, you know, they're saying, you know what, we're sort of subsidizing people that want to get 6 different ESPN channels, and we don't think we should have to pay for it. If that ever is put off and made a la carte, that actually would mean lower ratings and therefore lower advertising revenue. And that is something that Laura pointed out that she feels could be a threat 5-6 years down the road.
Would the flip of that be we'd have to pay for the needlepoint channel or something like that? Is that fair to say?
Maybe they'll bundle that and we'll have to pay for that too.
All right, we'll see.